Hi, Sean. How are you doing today?
Good, Tiff. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's getting close to the holidays, so just powering through the week.
Yes, that's right. It's that the last couple weeks of the year, trying to stay focused, get some stuff done while it's a little quieter, and then enjoy some time off, right?
Exactly. And then it's the new year. And speaking of the new year, we have some really exciting webinars coming up in January. Let me share my screen here and tell you a little bit about them. All right. So, January 12th, which is really about under 3 weeks away, which is kind of crazy if you ask me.
Mhm.
We have a webinar coming up with Data CMS, and we are sitting down with two Mateos actually, one that specializes in sales and partnerships, and one that focuses on developer and support. And we are going to be talking all about the benefits of headless and the best practices. So, this is going to entail what are some of the pros going headless for people who are either considering it or maybe even thinking of building a new project. And we're going to talk about not only the pros, but also to the challenges that come with it as well. And then the most exciting part is we actually have a demo between Stackbit and Dado. So I'm going to be taking viewers through a demo of how you can use Dado CMS and Stackbit together. So this is going to be a really valuable webinar for anyone who wants to learn not only more about headless, but maybe considering building a project with Dado and Stackbit.
That's great. And I've actually spent a lot of time with Dado in the past. I had a client for a few years that was really heavy content management user, and we had that on Dado because I felt like they have a really competitive cost model, which is great. And but they also have some really interesting concepts and like data constructs in there, which you don't necessarily find in a lot of content management systems. So I'd also encourage folks, if you haven't heard of Data or haven't spent a lot of time with it, check out this webinar because it's a little bit different than other CMSs, but they're doing some great stuff over there.
Yeah, they definitely are. And I got the chance to connect with both Mateos on a call leading up to this, and they're so knowledgeable and just wonderful people to connect with and hear from. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Great, great.
Next on the list, I really wanted to share with you about something that our colleague Elad built, which is I feel like in a lot of these updates, I'm sharing with you what Elad is building, which is
Building
really
something all the time.
exactly. So this is called checkup.stackbit.com. So what this allows you to do is you can go in here and input your website. So let's use an example to give, say Next.js. And what it will do is it will analyze your site. Then it will share with you the speed. So as you can see, nextjs.org, really good speed. But also too, it will share with you what framework the website is using. Of course, it's using Next. And CMS. So for different websites, you will get different results. So this is really interesting if you are a marketer or content creator to get a better sense of the speed of your site, how fast it is. Because as we know, people have zero patience and zero attention span nowadays, it feels like. So you need your site to be extremely fast. But it not only just shares about information about your site, but it also shares with you some insights. So it gives you some advice on unused JavaScript code, your web framework, more about that, and it will share more details. Also, SEO score is coming soon, which will be very interesting too.
This is great. Yeah, I think this tool is super cool, and it brings to mind for me this idea that I think goes overlooked a little bit with Stackbit, which is, on the surface, Stackbit is this tool that brings all these other tools together and lets you edit and manage the content for your site. But because of that, because we're focused on being this hub more or less where we bring all of these things together, we have this unique perspective on all of the tools that you need for a website to be able to come together. And so it's why we can build checkup tools like this and then have a smart set of recommendations based on that. And so that's why I like to reiterate when we talk about tools like this, that Stackbit is constantly thinking about replatforming, about making your site modern and more modular and composable, and much more than just a visual editor and just a place to edit content, but really kind of like the the hub of everything. And so if you're not in the Discord community already,
Mhm.
then jump in there, because we have plenty of conversations around replatforming, making website more modern,
Mhm.
and can certainly answer any questions that you have around that process.
I completely agree. You summed it up so well, Sean. I think it's not even a stretch to say we are slightly obsessed with finding the best ways to replatform and enabling teams to work the best way possible in their own environments. So that was summed up really nice. Thank you.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right, we have something else coming up on January 10th that I'm very excited about. I'm going to be leading a meetup for CFE, and Sean, I know you're closely tied to CFE. You've given some talks there. I believe you've hosted one or many meetups there, right?
Yeah, I will occasionally fill in for Brian, the creator and founder of CFE, as needed. We've co-emceed one of the big events, which is actually coming up later in January. It's called the Jam.dev, and that's a great 2-day conference. But yeah, you see actually on the top of your screen there, there's
Mhm.
a link to talk shows, and that's my main role in this community, is hosting a talk show that happens twice every month.
Mhm.
And the conversations in the second season have been super interesting, as I bring different folks in from around the communities and focus on one specific topic that they are thinking a lot more about than I am. So it's been really fun. But
Nice.
this event is going to be even better. I'm really excited for this one.
I am too. So, this event, I'm going to be covering the challenges of modern CMS, and we're going to explore common challenges for content driven architecture and also how to choose the right CMS that balances both flexibility and productivity. Because, Sean, as you are aware, and I'm sure many of the listeners here, oftentimes we find ourselves either focusing on flexibility, and then in turn maybe there's not as much productivity, and vice versa. So how do you find that balance, and what are some ways to do so? So that is what I'm going to be covering in this meetup. 21 days. You can click on save my spot, and even if you're watching this weekly meetup now, if you have any questions leading up to this event around this topic, feel free to leave in the Discord channel those questions.
Great.
Perfect. Sean, I'm going to pass it to you now, and let's get into CSI a bit more.
Actually, the first thing I do want to talk about CSI. The first thing I wanted to discuss today is this new doc that we just published yesterday, or I should say earlier in the week, which is called Teams and User Access Control. And this is really explaining all the capabilities that Stackbit has around roles and permissions within our platform. And so if you're using the free tier, it's maybe looked like there's there's not as much nuance there. You can, of course, invite collaborators to your project, but as you get into the business and enterprise tiers, there's a ton more that you can do, which is really cool. We have predefined roles, but we also have the ability to build teams and groups around those roles within an organization. And we can even inherit permissions from one or more of your content sources, or even tap in with your organization's single sign-on service. So lots and lots of capabilities there. And we got this doc out to explain those. But as always, if there are more questions, let us know, and we can talk more about user access control. Super exciting topic. But what I think is even more exciting than that is CSI. And we mentioned it in the first weekly update video last week. But I just kind of glossed over it, and I wanted to go a little bit more in depth here. So last week I talked about how we have gone all in on JavaScript config and how that's kind of the foundation for all these new and powerful features. And CSI, or content source interface, is one of these features. And I believe it just briefly showed it last week, but the usage for CSI is basically, what it lets us do is it lets us hook in one or more content sources to our project to make them editable with Stackbit. And it all still happens in this main configuration file, the stackbit.config.js or .ts if your project is using TypeScript. And this content sources property is an array of classes that you can instantiate, and that then make that content source editable. And we have we're always adding them, and like Tiff is doing this webinar in a couple weeks on Dado, and we mentioned Strappy last week, that we're spinning up more and more of these demos that we are exploring that are, they're beginning their journey to becoming officially supported modules within CSI and within Stackbit. But the really cool thing is that this is just code. And so you can build your own module. You can begin to start to build your own demos and kind of experiment with, maybe you don't just have a traditional API CMS that you want to use, like a Contentful or Sanity or Dado, but maybe you want to edit content from Figma is a demo that we did a few weeks ago, or you might even have a product database that you want to tap into, or just really any source that can play a role in your website management experience. You can take advantage of this feature. And so last week, we released the first set of documentation that starts to open up this process. So again, we're very new and like very experienced in terms of two-way syncing, like building this mechanism that syncs content to and from various content management sources. The new feature here is this ability to bring your own content source, essentially. And so in our docs, in our references, we have this content source interface section now. And it begins with this diagram on basically the whole life cycle of how content gets updated in Stackbit. And so there's a lot of information, and you can go super deep there. And then as we dig in more, we see that there are several sets of methods that that basically you have to add to this class if you want to unlock content editing for that particular source. So you can go very deep there. And there's also a feature guide as well on custom content sources that kind of help guide you along this process at a higher level. But as I mentioned, this process of opening up content source interface is very new. And so if this is something that you're interested in, get in touch with us, because first of all, we want to help you along the process so we can learn as you learn, but I'm sure we'll catch various things along the way. We'll be able to make the docs tighter and potentially even make the source that you're looking to use an officially supported source. So that's the update on CSI this week, and that's all I have.
That's great. Sean, thank you for that. Going through the CSI updates or more in depth, I should say, because I know we did start last week. It reminded me actually that in my updates, I forgot to mention we started this week our first learning in public. So I'll link it down below, but the first one was with Alad and I, and we were covering annotations. And the concept of this is really to not only learn in public, but fail in public, meaning I know for me anyways, I always learn the best from other people's mistakes and from my own. So getting to talk about different features in Stackbit, get into the code, build something interesting. And if we run into a problem along the way, not cutting that out, but actually sharing with the audience what exactly that is. And I'm bringing that up because I think actually going through CSI, maybe in the future, it could be a very interesting learning in public that we do together.
Totally. Definitely.
That's great. Sean, thank you for your updates today. It was great to connect.
Thanks, Tiff. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.